Alright, Mom, I'm on. I said I'm on. I'm early, but hey, what's happening, everybody? We're gonna start up here in a couple minutes. I'm just getting myself adjusted to this 2K life. They gave me the skateboard, electric skateboard still. We back
In the neighborhood, every delivery is a treat.
again for another 2K series.
One strawberry.
I'm glad to be in here with this. I ain't even gonna lie. I was playing 2K last year. I was playing 2K the year before, and it really kind of helped get me through a lot. I couldn't always go out and play basketball, and at one point I was playing basketball so heavy that that's all it was. Go to the gym, play basketball, come back, play 2K. So thank you 2K for giving me that. I ain't mad at you. All right, hold on now. I gotta play outside, or I gotta play a game with the regular people first before I do anything else. Let me see if I can get on one of these courts. I ain't never scared. Or where the tools at? Let's see, trying to run some tools with nothing. My man Hakeem Suarez, we just out here. We got no skills, no badges, no nothing. Gotta feel how the game, see how the game feel, but naked. All right, so y'all give me one more minute, and then we're gonna start up here. Today's topic is which way is up on the Navigating Our Lives series that we've been doing. Y'all just chill with me for a few minutes. Be right back. All right. Welcome to another episode of Expansion Pack. We're gonna start naming these mugs now. I don't see why not. We're gonna start next week, episode one. That'll be episode one next week because we're gonna switch over to the DGTA TV channel on Twitch and other networks, and that's when we'll officially say it's episode one. So welcome everybody who's been here. I know I lost some subs along the way, but it's okay. It's okay. We all ride the wave. We all go up and come back down. And I appreciate everybody who stick around. You might notice if you started going to Twitch this month, it's September. You can get 30% off your brand new subs all the way until October 1st. So go ahead and subscribe, resubscribe, or gift a sub to somebody else, and you get 30% off of it. What's $15? What's $10 to help a brother out? 2K is an investment to me. That's why I'm so excited about it. For the first time ever, I've been able to put some money back. In my pocket from playing the game. And I take it I take my work very seriously. So, let me eat this piece of candy, and we're gonna get this thing started here. I love this topic that we're about to talk about, by the way, too, as well. Y'all just bear with me. Okay, so it seems that there's always divine timing and divine planning that surround us. It envelops us, encloses us, right? And so this Wednesday, today, navigating our lives. That's what the series is for Wednesdays. And why not talk about which way is up? We navigating, ain't we? We found our compass. We found a few things we may can recognize in here as landmarks in life. So when I say which way is up, this is what I mean. I don't mean like, oh, which way is up and where we gonna go. I mean, what is your definition of climbing towards what you want, progressing towards what you want, having progression in your life towards what you want? And this is important because today, like an hour ago, this game that I'm playing just dropped. 2K25. Hey, what's up, Zanita67? Good to have you in here. 2K just dropped, right? And so, for the first time ever in my life, I went to buy a game that I knew would make me some money. It ain't about me sitting and playing it no more. It ain't about me enjoying it, liking it. They made it so that I can play it and I love it. It's about the fact that I invested into this game and it's going to make me some money. Do you know how that feels? And I don't just have to play it. I can play it, enjoy it, and get paid for it. That's beautiful. So which way is up for you? Me putting the money into buying this game is up for me. So at the next stop of play, and y'all can enjoy some good basketball too along the way. I think I'm gonna keep talking just a taste bit more until I can get us a video pulled up. Well, maybe I won't. Enjoy this game. Everybody's a scrub. That's why I love playing at the beginning of 2K. All right, so let's see what we got. Oh, that shot. Oh, what's up with these shot meters? Good lay. All right, let's listen to a TED talk.
20, 180. That's how many clients I'm going to get you, and that's how many days it's going to take me to do it. And I will do it on a pay-on-results basis, and I will guarantee it works, as I have done for more than 2,000 agency owners, coaches, and consultants. If you're interested, click on the ad. Hey, my name's Charlie Morgan. I've got an important message for you, and it's that you do not
There we
need...
go. Sorry to keep y'all waiting.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Can you imagine if you spent 20 years of your life trying to be a success, trying to really be someone, and you really have this bold ambition to reach the moon? But then, when you actually become that someone, you realize the person that you've become is not what you want to be at all. I grew up in a small country town in a place called Shepparton, which was about 200 kilometres north of Melbourne in the southeast of Australia. And I had 6 brothers and sisters, and there they are, most of them. And all of those brothers and sisters I had left school by the time they were 15. And I didn't leave school at 15 because they wanted to leave school. They left school because it was a necessity. Because when we were growing up, it was really tough to make ends meet. And although I grew up with a lot of hardship, as a kid, I also grew up with a big dream. And that dream was to become a professional cyclist. And I started racing BMX when I was 9 years old. And by the time I was 16, I'd progressed to the velodrome and then onto the road. And the year that this photo was taken, which was 1987, that's me on the left, I had qualified with my friend and training partner Stuart Mackenzie to race the Australian Championships. So I was one of the best riders, I guess, of my generation. I worked really hard to get there. You know, as a kid, cycling was my life. But I never forget, I guess, from the age of around 15, something started to happen. And I guess the first sign of that was my interview with my careers advisor at school when I was about 15. And I met with my career advisor and she said, "Jamie, what do you want to be?" And I said, "I want to be Greg LeMond." And of course she said, "Greg LeWho?" And I explained that my dream was to become a professional cyclist. And this conversation went on for a while, but I never forget the words that I left her, that she left me with. She said, "Jamie, maybe it's time to be realistic." You see, because the other thing I was, besides being a good cyclist, was actually I was a pretty smart kid. And I did very well at school. And in fact, not too much after I raced the Australian Championships, I sat my end of school exams. And I did very well. And in fact, I did so well that I was offered a grant to study at the University of Melbourne. And the University of Melbourne is one of Australia's best places of higher education. And I remember getting this letter from the university and lying in my bed on a Sunday night and just looking at it and thinking, I don't want to do this. But of course, I also had a huge weight of expectation because it wasn't just my careers teacher, it was all of my teachers. It were many of my friends, and the message they were telling me was that, Jamie, cycling is just a dream. And dreams rarely pay the bills, and dreams rarely take you places. And I started to feel this real anxiety. And what I started to think about was this choice of what am I going to do? But what I also started to realize was that actually maybe I didn't have a choice at all. And I'm not sure if you understand what I'm saying, but because of the environment that I'd grown up in on this housing commission estate, I knew almost no kids who had gone on to university. There were maybe 400 or 500 kids in the neighborhood where I grew up. There were only 1 or 2 of them that had gone to university. None of my brothers and sisters had had that chance. So I started to feel that actually, you know what, I don't have a choice at all. And a few weeks before my 18th birthday, I moved to Melbourne. And I started university, and I said goodbye to my European dream. And what did I do for the next 20 years? Well, for the next 20 years, I worked really hard. Because, you know, one of the things I learned as a young, ambitious sportsman was that it was about discipline, it was about focus. So I worked really, really hard. And there was another reason I worked hard, because when I went to Melbourne University and I looked around, there was maybe 1 in 10 kids who were like me. You know, most of those kids were from private schools and privileged backgrounds, and do you know what? I hated those kids. Yeah, and I wanted to be better than them. Now, I didn't quite know what I wanted to be, though, because, you know, I grew up in a neighborhood where everyone was a blue-collar worker. So I looked around at university, and I looked at the guys, who's making money? And the guys I saw were these professors, actually. They didn't dress like the other professors. They wore suits and ties, and they drove fancy cars, and they made a lot of money. And those professors were the business school professors. So I said, I'm going to be one of them. So I worked really hard. So after my undergraduate scholarship, I went on and I got a graduate scholarship. And in fact, by the time I was 29 years old, it took me 10 years, I was working at one of the top graduate management schools in the world. I was living in London. And what did I do when I got to London? I worked really hard. And in fact, for 10 years, I got promoted, I got encouraged. And this is what happens. You know, when you're a high performer, when you're an achiever, the doors open in front of you. So I kept working. And by the time I was 39 years old, I was there.
Food for work.
I published in the world's top journals. I was working at one of the best business schools in the world. I was traveling the world. I was making more money than I ever imagined would be possible in my life. And I was also desperately unhappy. And in fact, that's who I was.
Let's go to the gym.
And I'm not sure, you know, what you see in this face, but what I saw in the mirror every single day was tiredness. Because I was really tired. I'd been working and working. This took a long time. This was 20 years as a journey. And I'd worked and I'd worked. And I'd put sleep aside and I'd put hobbies aside. And I'd worked really hard to get there. So I was tired. And do you know what else I was? I was arrogant. Because to survive in that environment, that egotistical, hierarchical environment, I'd become a bit of an asshole. Because you have to be, right? You have to be sometimes in these environments. So that's what I've become. So I was tired, I was arrogant, and I was unhealthy. You know, here's a guy who's been a sportsman. It's not like I was really fat, but I was soft. I was all soft, you know, and the other thing, though, the other thing was that
in our lives.
I wasn't alone anymore. You know, I'd been on this journey for 20 years, but actually along the way, I'd met a wonderful woman. We got married, and by this time, I had 3 children. And although I was this big success in my career, I wasn't a good husband, and I wasn't being a good father because I was so obsessed
my XR glasses.
with this thing
I'm playing the
that I
game
thought was
inside these
success.
glasses.
And there's a wonderful quote
Yeah,
by
I'm
Lao
playing the
Tzu,
game
the
in
Chinese
here.
philosopher. And Lao Tzu says, if you keep heading in the same direction, you're likely to get where you were going.
Yes, sir.
And the fact was, I didn't like where I was going. But there was a problem, because I also had to realize that, for this 20 years that I've been this high achiever, this high performer, everyone's been telling me it's about you. It's about your success and about what you can do with your life. And you know what I started to understand? It wasn't about me at all. It was about us. Because it was about me and my wife and my kids and what we actually wanted from our life.
Sometimes we get
So in
focused on
2009,
situations in our lives that we
I
lose
sat with
which
my
way
wife,
is-
Anna-Mee,
which way is up.
And we took a
Exactly.
sheet of paper and a bottle of wine. I think it was 2,
Exactly.
actually.
Remember, look how far away from a
And
cyclist he
we drew a
is.
picture, and what we did is we drew a picture about what success meant for us. And in fact, what was on that picture was love, actually. It was a relationship, because with all this hard work and travel, we were missing romance as a couple. But also, I was not being a good dad. I remember reading bedtime stories to my kids, and I would skip bits because I had stuff to do. And you know what? If you do that with an 8-year-old kid, they know. They've heard this story countless times. I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to read stories to my kids and go on holidays with them and play Monopoly. And the other thing, of course, that Anna-Mee and I wanted was just
Look how far
just
away
a
from a
place.
cyclist he
We'd been
was.
living in big cities and apartments and fancy places.
He wanted to
We
be
just
a
wanted a little
cyclist.
house with a garden somewhere near the forest or the lake where the kids could run and be free. That's how we grew up. Now, the career thing was a bit of a problem because, you know what? I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Grinding again.
I was this big professor, but I hated 80% of my job. I was this international consultant. I was this management guru. I didn't like it, but I wasn't sure at that moment what I wanted to do. My wife, Anna-Mee, she wanted to get back to work. And of course, in the bottom right corner of that picture, what was there? There was a little hand-drawn bicycle. Because that fire that I had inside me when I was 9 years old, that fire, it was still burning. I still had this dream. And I discovered this thing called the World Masters Games. Have you heard of it? It's an Olympics for old people like me.
Yes, sir. That's my
It's
guy.
every 4 years. It's an incredible organization, 23 different sports. In 2009, it was in Sydney. The next one was coming in Torino in 2013.
I gotta
And I
get
said
out
to
there
my
for that.
wife, I'm going to go. And guys, I don't know if you've ever had that look from your wife, and you know what? I was terrified because what I realized was that picture did not fit with the job I had. So a few days later, I went into that prestigious school and I resigned my job. And that was a terrifying experience because I had to confront fear. Fear that it's all going to go away, the financial security.
Yeah,
Fear
I feel
that
you.
I'm going to
Oh
lose
my
the status,
gosh.
this professor title and all that stuff.
You're speaking
But
my
Anna-Mee and I
life.
said, you know what? That doesn't matter. We will find our way.
Yes, sir.
So what I did is I tried to find that new path. We tried to find a new path. And it was hard. For the first 2 years I was on that path, I was afraid. I earned
bet.
almost nothing. When I got back on my bicycle and I started to train again, that took time. I fell down, I broke bones. But every single time Anna-Mee and I experienced a setback or a heartache, we said, that's the picture. And we kept heading towards it.
Yes, sir.
And on the 8th of August in 2013, I stood on the start line of the World Masters Games in
sir.
Torino.
That's my guy.
And I can't tell you how this felt.
Yes, sir.
Because I dreamed about this moment since I was 9 years old.
Yes, sir. Oh. Hold on, y'all. All right. Yes, that just did something to my soul to see him standing in that uniform. Yes,
And
sir.
I was not there alone. Because in Torino were my 3 beautiful children and the most amazing wife. And as I stood on the start line, getting ready to be marshaled, onto the race, my little girl Hannah pushed her way through the marshals and she came up to me and she took my hand. And I will never, ever forget what she said. Because she took my hand and she said, Papa, it's okay if you don't win.
Yes, sir.
And you know what? She was completely right. Because being there in Torino was not about winning a bike race. Being there in Torino was about the journey. And you know what? We'd had the courage. We had this belief that we could make something And at that moment, when my little girl held my hand in Torino, I realized that every single thing that Annemie and I had drawn on that picture 4 years before was starting to fall into place.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I was a different person. I was a writer, I was a speaker, I wasn't a professor anymore, but I was a husband. I think
Yes, sir.
I'd become a good dad, and I was a cyclist again.
That's my guy.
And, oh yeah, the
wonder
other
how
thing that
that
Hannah said
feel.
was, watch out for those guys.
Yeah, 'cause they ready to mold or something.
And you know, I love this picture because have a look at their faces. Those guys are there to
They
win.
ready to mold
Look
us
at
up.
me. I'm smiling like a monkey, you know, I'm all happy and everything. Because this was just amazing, you know. And that race, was
Yes,
9
sir.
laps on an 8-kilometer circuit through Park Valentino, the streets of Turin. It was 9 laps of pain. And every single lap, I looked down and there were 3 little children. And they were screaming. There was a beautiful Belgian woman wrapped in an Australian flag, and she was cheering me on.
Man.
And every single time we went around that circuit, we went up Mount Cappuccini. Mount Cappuccini was a 1-kilometer.
Just in this moment, I realized that is what the movie Which Way Is Up with Richard Pryor was really about. Sometimes movies that we watched as a kid, we couldn't imagine what the storyline was telling us. Exactly. That's why I'm on all this nostalgic stuff, because I'm like, we was learning this stuff. Somebody already learned it, and maybe they was telling us. And now that you got that understanding, you start to scroll through all of the books and the old pages of the people that came before you. And look at the walls of the temples, you know? Oh, man, that's beautiful. All right.
With an 18% gradient. And I'd been trained to put my body over that mountain every single day for 4 years. And every single time we went over the mountain, I looked behind me and there were 20 more guys gone. There were 20 more guys gone. And what you see here is 2 laps to go. And you see that guy at the back with the white and the green sleeves? That's me. And at that moment, a crazy thing started to go through my head. I could win. But I didn't win. That was an incredible Czech cyclist. I didn't get second because that was an Italian, but I did come home with a bronze medal.
Word.
And this is my medal.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm holding out for mine, too, bruh. I'm holding out for mine.
And, you know, I carry this with me everywhere. But
That's the change
you know
for
what?
your life.
And I guess this is the message I want to leave for you.
All right.
Is it's fantastic. You know, success is great, and shooting for the moon is great. But out there in the universe, there are a lot of moons. So just make sure that the moon.
Oh, no. The moon.
Everywhere. But you know what? And I guess this is the message I want to leave for you. Is it's fantastic. You know, success is great, and shooting for the moon is great. But out there in the universe, there are a lot of moons. So just make sure that the moon that you are shooting for is your own.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
That's my guy. Yeah, hold on. I'm going to get us another video up here. Just let me finish this workout. All right. So, the message there is, your heart will lead you to where you want to be. It's your heart, right? You can't follow somebody else's heart strings or dreams of what they want to do. And you know, I'm gonna say this. Let me give a clear picture of this thing right here. So there has been a robbery that has taken place of the entire society, civilization, culture, whichever part you want to put the description on. And that robbery was of our intentions for our own life here on this planet. Imagine, but just imagine you have something that you want to do, and it's calling you, beckoning you, saying, hey, 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 every day you get up, hey, come do this, hey, come do this, every day you get up. And it's not that you can't do it, you're not connected to it, you don't know what it is, you don't know how to get to it, and then everything else says, hey dog, you don't even have time to do it. And so in a sense you're robbed, but the robbery is done by yourself if it takes too long for you to realize it. Yeah. On this planet, we should actually just be doing what it is that we are called to do. Instead, we have a diversion called survival. And it seems like we can't, the plateau of survival just keeps, race for survival just keeps going and going and going and going. Because sure, I got a house and I don't have to worry about the weather raining down on me today and storms and wild animals, but I need a bigger house. And then eventually I need your whole country. I need your house. And so on and so forth. We're living in a new age, a new time that I've never been here before. And so I could say it's new, but let's just hope that it's a good one, because if you want to do what you want to do, please let my mans do what he want to do, and we can probably all possibly get to a better day. Now, with that being said, that's why my mans had to switch from being the professor in the business school teacher, or sorry if I'm messing that up, to being the cyclist. He started off wanting to be a cyclist. Now he's here able to speak on a TED Talk about being a cyclist. All right, so let me see something. This is going to be too vulgar to put on there, but I do want to type this in. Let's see what it give us. I want to give us something completely, it's going to seem completely off.
Are you
But just
struggling in your
listen up.
calculus class? Do you have a hard time understanding your instructor? Do you wish there
So in English, when you say I'm down for it, it means that you want to do something. If we were living in an earlier time where we were allowed to go out, and if my brother called and said, do you want to go out for dinner tonight? I could respond by saying, yeah, I'm down for it. I think I could go out for a good burger and maybe some fries. I'm definitely down for it. So in English, when you say I'm down for it, it means basically yes. If someone was to say to me, do you want to go out and see a movie this Friday night? If maybe my friends said that, and if we weren't all in self-isolation, I would say, yes, I'm totally down for it. I could really use an evening out and a little bit of distraction. A movie would be great. I'm down for it. So, pretty simple phrase. I'm not sure what it comes from, but it could be from the time when people would write their name down if they wanted to do something. So you could say, I'm down for it. It's slang, but it is very common. Here's how English is weird though. If my brother called and asked if I wanted to go out for dinner, I could say, yes, I'm up for it. So the phrase, I'm down for it, and I'm up for it mean exactly the same thing. So if my brother said, hey, do you want to go to a restaurant tonight and have a meal? I would say, sure, I'm up for it. I'm totally up for it. Kind of a weird language, isn't it? So do you want to go see a movie tonight? You could say, yes, I'm down for it. Or you could say, Yes, I'm up for it. Either way, you're saying the same thing,
thing.
and you're agreeing to do what the person is asking. Anyways, I'm up for going out and I'm down for going out, but I can't yet. We are still in Canada being told to stay home, so that's what we're going to do.
Yes,
Anyways,
sir.
Bob the Canadian
That's
here,
my guy.
and you're learning English with me, and I hope you're having a good day. By the way, I do have a new video up on my other channel.
All right, so look, check it out. The reason I wanted to play that is to kind of cut the message in half. Well, cut the message down to something simpler for us to understand. It's both, people. It's always going to be both. But in this sense, with navigating our lives, you want to go up at some point. You want to go up, or at least progress towards what it is that you want in life. So let me get something else. That's just to break it up for us real quick. All right. It's a whole bunch of videos that I have that I want to play, but I don't want to keep hitting the same people over and over. I want to give some other people a chance to speak on this thing. Let's see what Matthew McConaughey has to say. That's my guy.
The sooner that we become less impressed with our life, with our accomplishments, with our career, with whatever that prospect is in front of us, the sooner we become less impressed and more involved with that and these things, the sooner we get a whole lot better. Life's not easy. Life is not easy. It is not. Don't try to make it that way. Life's not fair. It never was. It isn't now, and it won't ever be. Do not fall into the trap, the entitlement trap, of feeling like you're a victim. You are not. Get over it and get on with it. And yes, most things are more rewarding when you break a sweat to get them. Give others and yourself more credit. It just happened. You witnessed it. You just did it. Believe it. Happiness is an emotional response to an outcome. If I win, I will be happy. If I don't, I won't. It's an if-then, cause and effect, quid pro quo standard that we cannot sustain because we immediately raise it every time we attain it. You see, happiness demands a certain outcome. It is result reliant. And I say if happiness is what you're after, then you're going to be let down frequently, and you're going to be unhappy much of your time.
Good
Joy,
shot,
though,
boy.
joy is a different thing. It's something else. Joy is not a choice. It's not a response to some result. It's a constant. Joy is the feeling that we have from doing what we are fashioned to do, no matter the outcome. Joy is always in process. It's under construction. It is in constant approach, alive and well in the doing of what we're fashioned to do and enjoying. Define success for yourself. Money is king today. It's what makes the world go round. It is success. The more we have, the more successful we are, right? Now, I would argue that our cultural values have even been financialized. Humility is not in vogue anymore. It's too passive. It's a get rich quick on the internet, rich is 15 minutes of fame world that we live in, and we see it every day. But we all want to succeed, right? So the question that we got to ask ourselves is what success is to us, what success is to you. Is it more money? That's fine. I got nothing against money. Maybe it's a healthy family. Maybe it's a happy marriage. Maybe it's to help others, to be famous, to be spiritually sound, to leave the world a little bit better place than you found it. Continue to ask yourself that question. Now, your answer may change over time, and that's fine. But do yourself this favor. Whatever your answer is, don't choose anything that will jeopardize your soul. Prioritize who you are, who you want to be, and don't spend time with anything that antagonizes
There
your
you
character.
go.
Don't
Hold
drink
on,
the
I gotta run
Kool-Aid,
that back.
man. It tastes sweet, but you will get cavities tomorrow. All right?
Hold up.
It's not a popularity contest.
Please
Be
let me run
brave.
that back, y'all.
Question. Now, your answer may change over time, and that's fine. But do yourself this favor. Whatever your answer is, don't choose anything that will jeopardize your soul. Prioritize who you are, who you want to be, and don't spend time with anything that antagonizes your character. Don't drink the Kool-Aid, man. It tastes sweet, but you will get cavities tomorrow, all right? Life is not a popularity contest.
Yes, sir.
Be brave, take the hill, but first answer that question, what's my hill?
Right.
So,
yes, sir.
me, how do I define success for me, myself? Well, for me, it's a measurement of 5 things. We got fatherhood. We got being a good husband. We got my health, mind, body, and spirit. We got career, and we got friendships. These are what's important to me in my life right now. So I try to measure these 5 things each day. I check in with them. I like to see whether or not I'm in the debit section or the credit section of each one.
Yes,
Am I
sir.
in
That's
in the red or am I in the black? And I know that if I don't take care of them, if I don't keep up maintenance on them,
that.
one of them is going to get weak, man.
Yes, sir.
It's going to dip too deep into the debit section. It's going to go bankrupt. It's going to get sick. So first, we have to define success for ourselves. And then we have to put in the work to maintain it. I know who I am. I know who I am. That's not the first step. The first step's usually, I know who I am not. Process of elimination. Defining ourselves by what we are not is the first step that leads us to really knowing who we are. Or how about that food that we keep eating? The stuff that tastes so good going down, it makes us feel like crap the next week, when we feel lethargic and we keep putting on weight. Well, those people, those places, those things, stop giving them your time and energy. Just don't go there. I mean, put them down. And when you do this, when you do put them down, when you quit going there, and you quit giving them your time, you inadvertently find yourself spending more time and in more places that are healthy for you, that bring you more joy. Why? Because you just eliminated the who's, the where's, the what's, and the when's that were keeping you from your identity. Too many options will make a tyrant of us all. All right, so get rid of the excess, the wasted time. Decrease your options. And if you do this, you will have accidentally, almost innocently, put in front of you what is important to you.
Yes, sir.
By process of elimination. Knowing who we are is hard. It's hard. So give yourself a break. Eliminate who you are not first.
Yes, sir.
And you're going to find yourself where you need to be. Don't leave crumbs and the beauty of delayed gratification. So what are crumbs? Well, the crumbs I'm talking about are the choices that we make that make us have to look over our shoulder in the future. You leave crumbs today, they will cause you more stress tomorrow. And they disallow you from creating a customized future in which you do not have to look over your shoulder. Instead of creating outcomes that take from us, let's create more outcomes that pay us back, fill us up, keep your fire lit, turn you on for the most amount of time in your future. These are the choices I'm talking about. And this is the beauty of delayed gratification. All right, tee yourself up. Do yourself a favor. Make the choices, the purchases today that pay you back tomorrow. Dissect your successes in the reciprocity of gratitude. We so often focus on failure, don't we?
Yeah.
And we study failure. We obsess with failure. We dissect failure and our failures. We dissect them so much we end up intoxicated with them to the point of disillusion. I mean, when do we write in our diary? Usually when we're depressed. What do we gossip about? Other people's flaws and limitations. And we can dissect ourselves into self-loathing if we're not careful.
Right.
I find that most of the times our obsession with what is wrong just ends up breeding more wrong, more failure. And the easiest way to dissect success is through gratitude, giving thanks for that which we do have, for what is working, appreciating the simple things we sometimes take for granted. We give thanks for these things, and that gratitude reciprocates, creating more to be thankful for. It's really simple, and it works. Now, I'm not saying be in denial of your failures. No, we can learn from them too, but only if we look at them constructively, as a means to reveal what we are good at, what we can get better at, what we do succeed at.
Yes,
and since
sir.
we are the architects of our own lives, let's study the habits, the practices, the routines that we have that lead to and feed our success.
Yes, sir.
Our joy, our honest pain, our laughter, our earned tears. Let's dissect that and give thanks for those things. And when we do that, guess what happens? We get better at them, and we have more to dissect. Make voluntary obligations. I'm talking about the you versus you obligations. We have to have them. Now, again, these are not societal laws and expectations that we acknowledge and endow for anyone other than ourselves. These are faith-based obligations that we make on our own.
Yes, sir.
You will not be fined or put in jail if you do not gratify
Right.
these obligations I speak of. No one else governs these but you. They are your secrets with yourself, your own
Right.
private counsel, personal protocols. And while nobody throws you a party when you abide by them, no one's going to arrest you when you break them either, except yourself. It's on you. It's on you.
Thank you, Matthew. All right. So, what we talking about here is for you and you alone. Don't want to say nothing else about that. Let's see something. I bet you the message is the same from every last person that we would say is successful. Let me see. I don't even have to go and pick around.
I tell people, if you're going to take this road, there's a huge sacrifice that people don't think about. You know, most people think, oh, I'm going to start a company, 2 months later it's going to be worth $1 billion, and I'm going to make a fortune. That is actually not what happens to 99% of people. 8 out of 10 fail. They have to do it 3 times. They spend a decade before they get their hit, or they work at one company for 15 years, and they finally get an exit. It's more like that, and the personal sacrifice is huge. There is no soccer game on Saturday. There's no
Right.
Sunday dinner with the family. You're working.
All
Because
the
some
time.
guy in China or in India or some woman out there is kicking your ass. Because we're in a global competition now. And so I don't care what your business is, men, women, you have to understand that you're going into a huge lifestyle change. And I tell people it's not for everybody. Don't do it if you don't have the stamina to get kicked around and driven into the ground and get up and do it again and beaten up by people that tell you, this is not kumbaya stuff. This is hardcore stuff.
Exactly.
And I meet many entrepreneurs that are in tears saying, I can't go on. I haven't seen, you know, my significant other in 2 weeks. It happened to me in a class. I mean, I'm not sure how you're going to take this story, but I'm going to tell it to you anyways, okay? End of a class, 9 at night, 600 people. There's a fellow up at the top, puts up his hand and say, Mr. O'Leary, look, I have to ask you a question. I haven't said anything all class, but I'm really hurting. Can you help me? And I said, what's your problem? Class goes dead silent, because it's not going to be about business. And he said, today, my fiancée came to me and said that I have to make a decision between our relationship and the business. And I said, oh, I'm not Dr. Phil here, but let's hear it. This guy had, in his dorm room in undergrad engineering, built an online cloud-based compliance tool for hedge funds with under 250 million to help them reduce their costs. It's a subscription service. The guy had a run rate of $5 million. He hadn't even graduated yet. I'm licking my chops at this business. This is fantastic. And then he said, but I have no time. And I never see my fiancée, and she wants me to come be with the family on Sundays just once. But I'm doing my compliance downloads on Sundays, and I have to deal with my customers because I got to be back in class at 8 o'clock in the morning on Monday.
Right.
Now the class is looking at me saying, okay, big guy, what's the answer?
Right.
I said, everybody, let's be pragmatic. Which is easier to replace? Your business or your fiancé? And the shit hit the fan. But let me ask you something. Clearly that match was not right.
Yes,
because
sir.
if you're going to get into a relationship with an entrepreneur, man or woman, it doesn't matter. You have to understand what drives them. It's not going to be a successful union. It's not going to work. I think he made the right decision.
It's interesting that he said because he had to get to class at 8 a.m. I'm thinking, if he already has built this business, why does he need to be in school?
Because he wanted to finish and get his ring. And engineers in their 4th year want the ring.
Okay.
They have worked like, there must be some engineers in this room. They know what that's about. That puts you into a cult for the rest of your life. you don't leave without the ring. Like, that's not going to happen. Not in your 4th year. And I get it now because I work with a lot of engineers. But I remember that, and it stuck in my mind. And I think we really debated that about relationships and how important it is for your partner to understand the journey you're in.
That was beautiful. Oh, that was beautiful. All of these successful people are going to say the same thing. It's about what you define for yourself as the success. And I think with the money culture that we have, it's so easy for us to compare and say, all right, well, he broke, he ain't got nothing, she ain't got nothing, they didn't do, and say that you aren't what you want to be, or you're not successful, when you can see somebody who all they do is sell incense in a shop, and the shop don't look like nothing amazing, but they're very successful to themselves. And you may see them walking down the street and be like, so it's easy for us to write that off. But my point that I want to make is that all of these successful people that we see in front of us are going to be saying the exact same thing. It's about you. Hey, let's see what he's talking about.
We believe in a future where
All right, here we go. Good drop.
Well done, Viv. You got the presents, the balloons, and the Raptor cake.
Well, oftentimes business education today, and I see it all the time, kids come out of college, the best colleges, Wharton and Harvard and Stanford and some of the great business schools, and they'll come out and they won't have practical experience. There's too many case studies that aren't practical.
You know, we ask kids that are 16 to 18 years old to make $100,000 debt decisions when they go off to university. And they're not prepared for that. They don't know what they're getting themselves into. They just assume, okay, I'm going to pay 4 years of education at $25,000 a pop, and when I come out the other side, somehow I'll be able to pay it back.
Right.
That's not how life works anymore.
There's no need even to have a college degree at all, or even high school. I mean, if somebody graduated from a great university, that may be an indication that they will be capable of great things, but it's not necessarily the case. You know, if you look at, say, people like Bill Gates or Larry Ellison, Steve Jobs, these guys didn't graduate from college. But if you had a chance to hire them, of course, that would be a good idea.
Yeah. I think having the flexibility to explore a lot of different things, which you can do when you're in college, which is one of the amazing things about being in college, is you can work on all these hobbies and code a lot of stuff and try a lot of different things. It's this amazing flexibility that I think most people take for granted. And once you decide, okay, I'm going to start a company and I'm going to do it with someone else, you immediately now need to convince someone else if you want to change your mind on something. And I think people really undervalue the option value and flexibility. I think explore what you want to do before committing is really like the key thing, and keep yourself flexible. And no, I think that's. Yeah, I
agree.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually kind of funny. You know, if you think of like what is education, like you're basically downloading data and algorithms into your brain, and it's actually amazingly bad in conventional education because like it shouldn't be like this huge chore. You know, someone's standing up there kind of lecturing at people, and they've done the same lecture 20 years in a row, and they're not very excited about it. And in fact, I think a lot of things people learn, probably there's no point in learning them, because they never use them in the future. Because a lot of kids just in school kind of puzzled as to why they're there.
The people who are doing the work that we care about are figuring out what to do next, not following the person who told them what to do next. And the problem with most colleges is they are high school but with more binge drinking. The entire purpose of a good university is to give you a foundation to fail, not a foundation to get an A. And if you graduate from college with straight A's, you have to do some serious soul searching as to why you chose to spend your time doing that.
The A students work for the B students. The C students run the businesses, and the D students dedicate the buildings.
It's like the newspaper industry, right? More printing presses, more big buildings, right? Makes us look grander. We have brains that we're putting them out there. There's a point of diminishing returns in terms of what it's worth for a college education and how much debt you're willing to saddle yourself with.
A lot of people follow. A lot of people are followers. Generally, if not, we'd have problems. We have too many entrepreneurs. We have too many successful people. Like, look how many people go through business classes. If everything you needed was in that actual business class, in that book, it'd be too many successful business people. Right. How many people graduate? Matter of fact, the professor wouldn't have the time to sit there and teach you. That knows this book damn near verbatim, page by page, he knows it, right?
Because he'd be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, he's too busy. I'm doing way too much right now because I got the palm trees and we selling so much of the stuff that I'm doing that I ain't quite got time to teach no more class right now because I'm winning.
And so when you walk into a boardroom with a bunch of guys in suits who all went to college, you're fine.
Yeah, I mean, because they read a bunch of words. I've lived a bunch of life.
Well, that's true. Their law degree doesn't intimidate you, in other words.
It kind of evens us out, whether they know it or not.
Where do you think you get that self-esteem from? Seriously. I mean, most guys...
My mom, first and foremost, but then just living life, like, you know, being in real situations and happen to be a person of high integrity and honesty and, you know...
You never embarrassed yourself?
No, of course not.
You never walked in and said, "Oh, everybody thinks I'm ignorant here. I'm stupid."
I don't feel ignorant.
Right.
You know, I don't.
Right.
I felt like I came up in a situation, or a time, you know, where I wasn't afforded certain opportunities, and if afforded opportunities, I could be Oprah. I could be Bill Gates. I could be Warren Buffett.
In my experience in business, there is very little difference, if any, between a very high-priced business education and what's available for a lot less money. I went to the University of Nebraska at Lincoln my last year in college. I went to Wharton for a couple of years before that. I learned just as much at the University of Nebraska as I did at Wharton. You need to be prodded in the right direction, but an awful lot of it is self-taught. It isn't necessary to pay $30,000 or $35,000 a year to go to some big-name school to get the education at all. I mean, if you're going to learn accounting, which is probably the most important course you'd take in business, if you're going to learn accounting, you can learn accounting absolutely as well, in my view, going to UNO as going to Harvard. I mean, I see, I'd bet on that. And so I wouldn't run up huge bills.
And education is very good at training people to do the same things that we've done over and over again. And I think there's always a question what the nature of the educational good is. You know, you can say it's an investment good, where you're investing in the future. You can say it's a consumption good, like college is a 4-year party. You know, I think most of the parents and students think of it actually as an insurance policy, where you're buying this really ever more expensive insurance so that the students don't fall through the really big cracks in our society, and we should be asking some big questions why the insurance costs are going up and up like that. And if you were the president of Harvard or Stanford, if you wanted to get a lynch mob of students, alumni, faculty to come after you and try to lynch you, what you should say is something like this. You know, we live in this much larger, more global world. We offer a great education to everybody, and so we're going to double or triple our enrollment over the next 15 to 20 years. And people they'd all be furious because the value of the degrees comes from this massive exclusion, and what you're really running is something like a Studio 54 nightclub.
I hated school. I really hated school. I hated school, generally, right? Because it was this instruction following thing. Now, I bet you it's probably also because I wasn't good at it. And some people, like I've got a great conceptual memory and a terrible rote memory. So if I have a story, I could tell you, year by year kind of what happened within a story, within a context. But if I was to go into, like a memory-based learning, it's terrible. I have a terrible rote memory. Ego barrier is the worst thing. And if we were raised differently, just imagine in the schools that all along that people will always say, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has weaknesses. The key is really to understand what your mistakes and weaknesses are so that you can learn from them, right? I think punishment is a terrible concept. Punishment means that you made a mistake and you're being punished. I think instead of punishment, every time somebody makes a mistake, you should say the only thing that you need to do to get out of your punishment is first think, what kind of mistake was that? So if I'm in a situation that's like that again, how would I deal with it differently, not to make that mistake? So that learning should come from the mistake, not punishment, because you're teaching people not to make mistakes. Where's where the learning comes from, not the appreciation that if you keep doing this over and over again, you're going to keep encountering the same outcomes.
It's an extremely corrupt system we have at this point. We have an education bubble. In the U.S., we have $1 trillion of student debt. To a first approximation, this has gone to pay for $1 trillion worth of lies about the value of the education people have received. It's not at all obvious yet, though, what's going to replace this or how it's going to change. I'm somewhat skeptical that it will be replaced by any sort of single unitary system. I have this fellowship for young people to start companies, and it's not. My claim is not that everybody should do this. I don't think everyone should become an entrepreneur. And I think there is no one size fits all. So I think the future will be much more heterogeneous, much more diverse in terms of what people do. What's really anomalous is the sort of unitary tracking, where you have to go to an elite college, you go to Yale or you go to jail. There's nothing else you can do, And so I think the universities are perhaps in the same place as the Catholic Church was in 1514, if we go back 500 years, where you had sort of this monolithic way, this universal way of body of knowledge of teaching things. The difference between the Yale and the Harvard political science faculties are probably no greater than the differences between the Dominicans and the Franciscans. We have all kinds of small debates within this context. We have a system of indulgences that's costing more and more to support this priestly or professorial class of people. We are told that it's the only way to salvation. You must get a diploma to be saved. If you do not get a diploma, then you will go to hell. And I think the message that I have that's like the 16th century reformers, that's a somewhat troubling message, is that you have to work out your salvation on your own. You have to save yourself, and that's I believe that is the truth, but it's a somewhat uncomfortable one.
So, the reason I wanted us to get to hear that is because it's no one thing that you do in this life that makes you a success. Like, we can even take some of the biggest people that we know, and call them a success. But at one point, they weren't that success that we know. So it's not one thing that you do that makes you a success. Hence, the diploma, the degree, that business that you're running, that whatever it is that you're doing or providing. That is not what makes you a success. It's internal. Because we've seen people, they can be as successful as they want to be, but internally it's... So let's see what's up with this next one.
I was hungry. I was hungry. People often want to call me the exception. Like, oh my God, you're the exception. No, I'm not the exception. I'm an average, ordinary woman who chose every day to make one more extraordinary decision. I'm an average, ordinary mom who said, I want to drastically transform my son's future, that he deserves to have every option that every other child would have, irregardless of what he was born into. I just was crazy enough to believe that it doesn't matter the color of my skin, doesn't matter my religious background, doesn't matter my origin, it doesn't matter my mom's bank account, my dad's bank account when I was born. None of that means my future. That's just the circumstance that I came from. That's not what defines my future. I just believe that. Not a lot validated it, but faith is believing in the unseen anyway. So I had enough faith to go, I know like I know like I know like I know. I don't necessarily have to see it yet. There's so much value in what you unlearn. Sometimes the best thing you can do is unlearn some things. We're always going after learning something new because we're information junkies, because we have all these forms of information coming at us on the internet, coming at us in books, coming at us on the radio, coming at us in television.
Hey, what's
that we
up,
wanna learn,
old
learn,
littering?
learn. But sometimes your biggest breakthrough is in what you unlearn, and then you relearn. Sometimes you have to disrupt your soil, pull your soil up, take that dry dirt that's been planted for years. I know, I've just been knowing this for years. This is what my mother taught me. This is what we've always known. You have to disrupt that soil in order to plant a new seed to grow a new fruit.
These drops on.
Yeah, yeah? You guys got that? And so I came very comfortably to disrupt your soil. Like, that's what I came for, to disrupt your soil. Not to necessarily keep you comfortable in what you know. Stay comfortable in that. I want to disrupt you in some things that are new awareness to go, oh, wait, hold on. Or new awareness about what you've been doing based on what you've known forever that doesn't fit your future anymore. Because I can guarantee you, every single one of us who wants something different than what we're getting, we're doing something unconsciously from old patterns that doesn't even serve our future. That's when the tongue in your mouth and the tongue in your shoe are going in two totally different directions. And your job is to align them up so that you can move forward in a powerful way. Myth number 2 is that abundance is singularly focused on possessions and money. Right?
Ever feel like you're drowning in work and your day just never ends? I've been there. Then I found Motion. It's an app that transforms your chaotic schedule into a productivity power.
It's all about what you drive, what you live in, how much money you make. When in fact, this couldn't be further from the truth. Wealth is possessions and money. Abundance is a 360 experience. True abundance is your health, because if you don't have great health, life does not feel good. Abundance is relationship, and at the end of your life, literally, you will measure the quality of your life by the quality of the relationships you had. All the other stuff will fall away. That promotion you're thinking about, you're wondering about that raise, it will fall away in the area of importance when you get to the end of your life. You will begin to look at the quality of your relationships. How are your children relating to you? How are your siblings relating to you? Do you have love in your life? You literally will start looking at relationships at a higher level as you get older. So when you mind them now, you take care of them. And I know that for a fact. I have a friend who's worth $14 billion. Billion with a B. He was just partying at my house all night long, wouldn't leave, 4 in the morning, go home. And he flew in from Canada to go to my New Year's party because he loves my family connection. And he doesn't have one. He is financially wealthy. He's relationship broke. Does that make sense? Abundance is a 360 experience. It's about relationships. It's about health. It's about your spiritual groundedness. That doesn't mean you have a religious origin. It's about, can you release? Can you forgive? Can you let go? Can you be still? Do you meditate? Do you have time with yourself? That has a lot to do with the quality of your life. Let me tell you, in order to have something different, you are going to have to do something different. In order to have something more, you have to do something you haven't done yet. I had to say the things I didn't want to say, do the things I didn't feel like doing to have the life I know I wanted. Period. And all I did was give instructions for, here, do this bite size, do this bite size, do this bite size. Bite-sized, digestible, palatable pieces of what you can do. And when you look up, and you don't have to have a magnificent change over 12 months, have a small change over 30 days, and then a small change over 30 days, your breakthrough will come in needlepoint moves. And you'll look up in 5 years and not recognize your life. Every single thing you touch is impacted by your story. As an attorney, as a teacher, as an architect, there's not one line of business that you can be in that a story, and a great story, won't elevate your outcome. Every single line of business, every single line of service that you're connected to will be impacted and ideally elevated by the level in which you're willing to tell and share your story. So let me give you some guidelines, some parameters, what I like to call the bumper rails, as if you're going bowling. You know, when I go bowling, I ask them to put the little bumper rails down so I can my ball can get down the lane. So let me set up some bumper rails for you so that you understand what makes a great story. So one is the willingness to take risk. Most people, Vishen, when they're telling a story, they don't want to take a risk, so the story has its limits on how high it'll go or how deep it'll go. And when you have that, then you're really not at that part that's going to touch my soul. So being willing to take a risk, being clear and concise with your stories. A great story is a show me story, not a tell me story. Now, this is the distinction that's the game changer for most. Most people are telling a story. They say, so let me just share with you a little bit of my story, and I'll tell you and then I'll show you. So as I was building my life, there was a time in my life that was very difficult. It was very challenging. True story. Very difficult, very challenging, very uncomfortable. I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have a lot of hope, and things just looked dismal. At some point, I had to turn my life around. At some point, I made the decision that life had to get better. I'm telling you that. It's decent. You learn about me. Then if I were to show you that story, I would say 6 days a week, I had to eat beanies and weenies. I had to find money in the crevices and the corners of my couch so that I can get my son milk. There were times when my heart would beat fast just at what am I gonna have tomorrow? At some point, I got sick and tired of my own story. Is this gonna be my future? No. I can't handle it. Notice the difference in that second story. Wow.
I completely see that.
I just painted a picture, same story. Now the second one, when you show a story, it's gonna require more of you. It's gonna require you to find the colors. What were you thinking? What were you experiencing? What was going on in your head? Instead of telling me you look for money, turn and point. Now this is anywhere. This is anywhere you are doing anything. I promise you, you become a great storyteller and you will captivate your audience no matter what you're doing. I've captivated investors. I've captivated students. I've captivated educators because I was willing to show the story. I call it unpacking the story, Vishen. Being willing to tell me, what were you thinking? What were you feeling? What were you seeing? Think about a story as an oral movie. And so in an oral movie, think when you're looking at a movie, the first thing they do is they identify what state of time it is. Is it futuristic? Is it in the now? Was it back in the day? You notice that based on what people are wearing, how they're talking. So paint that picture for me. Take me to that environment. Set the backdrop up for me. Show me what you're going through. Instead of saying I was angry, you can tell me you were angry. But when you say the hair on the back of my neck was standing up, I felt the fumes exiting my nose. I thought that my chest was going to pop and I was going to say something that I'd regret forever. Ooh, you just showed me you were angry. Take that extra time to unpack it. Why will most people not do that? Because it requires a level of vulnerability that we're not willing to share. When we talk about living our quest,
Lisa Nichols.
I think that living my quest, really, if I look at it on a daily basis, it's finding my own voice. It's finding your voice. It's finding the song that only you can sing, off key or not. It's finding your rhythm. It's discovering what it feels like to walk in your shoes today. It won't look like it looked 10 years ago. Living your quest is what can I do with my life so that my life becomes infectious to someone else? Living my quest looks like, how do I make my fingerprint matter so big that it lives beyond my transition day? Living your quest is how can I forgive the perceivingly unforgivable so I can love the absolute lovable? Living your quest is how do I give myself 1,000 second chances? Living my quest is not some ambiguous, untouchable experience. Living my quest means going back and healing the little girl in me. so that the woman can be free. It's going back and embracing the little boy in you so that the man can show up and give himself permission to cry when necessary. Living your quest is not something that you can't touch. It's not something that requires a stage or lights or cameras. Living your quest is being complete and content with who you are in the dark of the night. So who you are in the middle of the day is all right. Living your quest is not holding yourself hostage to old decisions, not holding yourself hostage to shame, blame, guilt, regret, and anger. Living your quest is about recognizing that every day I can be reborn to my possibility. Living your quest is about recognizing that you have brilliance in you and not being willing to dim your light one more day.
So yeah, that was Lisa Nichols, and what we talking about here today on Expansion Pack. So if this is your first time joining us, which I'm seeing that we do have a first timer in here, what we talking about here is which way is up, defining success for ourselves. My example is for the first time ever in my life, I can go and buy a game and get paid for playing it. Whereas all of my life, I've always bought games and never had any return on that investment, like shoes. They just kind of wear down. Oh, dang. All right. I didn't mean to run my man's over. So, yeah. So on Expansion Pack, what we do is we just expand. We don't just sit and play the game. We expand on the topics of life that need to be talked about, need to be displayed, need to be emphasized. And we play some 2K at the same time. I'm gonna get us another video in here. And you know, obviously Earl always come up. I'm gonna get a quick TED video in here real quick.
Students with ADHD save 10 hours studying with this Chrome extension. But no, by all means, go ahead.
Let me get that. All right. Ooh, let's see what Michelle Obama talking about.
As many of you know my background, I mean, I grew up in Chicago in a working class community. My parents weren't wealthy, so we didn't have the resources to spend on fees at private schools. We went to the neighborhood public school, and I went to public school my entire life.
Yeah,
and I was always that student who wanted to get A's. I wanted to do well. Yeah. I enjoyed learning. I enjoyed excelling. But what I found out is that when you're one of those kids in a community where not everyone has the same goals, I found myself having to walk a bunch of different lines. There were some kids that didn't like kids who were smart and got good grades. There were some kids who criticized the way I talked. They said that I talked like I was white, which was another way of saying,
sorry, I need to hear that.
Have the resources to spend on fees at private schools. We went to the neighborhood public school, and I went to public school my entire life. And I was always that student who wanted to get A's. I wanted to do well. I enjoyed learning. I enjoyed excelling. But what I found out is that when you're one of those kids in a community where not everyone has the same goals, I found myself having to walk a bunch of different lines. There were some kids that didn't like kids who were smart and got good grades. There were some kids who criticized the way I talked. They said that I talked like I was white, which was another way of saying that you think you're better than other people. So I had to contend with, how do I get my education when I'm surrounded by people who may have different expectations of me? And those just weren't the kids in the neighborhood. There were teachers I had to confront, teachers who underestimated me every step of the way. Even when I applied to Princeton, I write about in my book, and I tell this story all the time, even though I was at the top of my class and I was a class officer, I was a leader, when I sat down with my high school counselor, somebody who didn't know me but was assigned to work with students to help them apply to college, and I told them my intention was to apply to Princeton, that counselor told me, I don't think you're Princeton material. The person whose job it was to help young people reach their dreams when it came to college saw me, and whatever she saw in me told her that my dreams were too high. And that cut me in a way that even though I continued on, I applied, obviously, I got in, but I still remember that story. I remember that feeling of doubt, just another adult sort of placing a barrier on me that I didn't even have for myself. So then to enter into an elite school when your high school counselor has told you you're not good enough, when all of society sort of looks at kids of color or kids from poor communities or rural communities as not belonging. I, like many others, walked into that school with a stigma in my own head. More young people nowadays call it imposter syndrome. I don't know if they call it that in Britain, where kids like me feel like they don't belong, so they feel like they're faking it. And I had to get over that. And one of the ways that I got over it was that I looked around at Princeton and I saw kids who were not as talented or as gifted or as hardworking as I was. I learned that this notion of affirmative action sometimes only applies to kids of color or kids from different backgrounds or poor kids, but there are all kinds of affirmative action that take place in elite schools around the country. Athletes who are admitted not because they're great students, but because they can add value. Legacies, people who come from families with long lines within the school, they get admission. So I started to realize that the doubts that I had in my head were all mine, and I had to work to overcome that question that I always ask myself, am I good enough? And I write about that. That's a question that has dogged me for a good part of my life. Am I good enough to have all of this? Am I good enough to be the First Lady of the United States? And I think that many women, and definitely many young girls of all backgrounds, walk around with that question. But how I overcame that is how I overcome anything: hard work. So whenever I doubted myself, I just told myself, let me put my head down and do the work, and I would let my work speak for itself. And I still find that I do that. I still feel that at some level I have something to prove because of the color of my skin, because of the shape of my body, because of who knows how people are judging. But it takes some time and it takes some maturity to start having some successes under your belt where you realize, yes, in fact, I am good enough. I absolutely believe that education is the key, not just for young women, but for people in general. Knowledge, the opportunity to mature, to try new things, to meet new people, to be open to different cultures. A lot of the problems that we have in the world come from a lack of knowledge. People who are just underexposed to all the different ways there are to be human. And we judge people based on our limited understanding of the world. And I always try to hold out empathy for those who are in that position, because I know that it's based in a place of ignorance. Sounds like a harsh word, but it's the appropriate word. Just not knowing. You only know what you know. And sadly, if your worldview is this small and you know no one else that looks or think differently from you because you didn't have the chance to be educated or to travel or to see the world or to have your ideas challenged and to learn how to be analytical, then it's understandable that you would be afraid of something different from you. But the only way we break through that is to educate ourselves and to educate the next generation, to open them up to new ideas. If you're not a strong reader, if you can't take in huge amounts of information and break it down and have it make sense. You won't even know when things are good for you or bad for you. So yes, I absolutely believe, and particularly for women and girls, because women still raise the next generation. Women are at the heart of all society. We bring life, we raise life, we nurture life, we feed our families. And if we don't know what to do, if those mothers raising children don't know how to keep them alive or not expose them to diseases or to feed them when they're hungry, if they can't raise a living to bring resources in, we all struggle. So it would seem to me that if we want to solve anything, any major issue that you can think about, climate change, terrorism, poverty, inequality, it starts with an education. I don't know how we do any of it if people don't know what they don't know. One of the challenges that formal education places before young people is that you're taught to figure out what you want to be when you grow up, right? And you're given titles, and there's a finite set of them. A lawyer.
So I just switched over to my Dan F. Mann channel, so you can catch me on there now on YouTube. So I'm not on the P5 Vibes TV channel no more. I'm just doing it on straight to my YouTube channel.
A researcher, you learn those titles, and then you do the work to get to those titles, and then you get jobs and you have careers. What I learned was none of that has anything to do necessarily with who I am, not what I want to be. What do I care about? How do I want to wake up and invest my time every day? What brings me joy? What makes me sad? We don't teach that in school, but I learned to try to find that for me and turn that passion into my career. And that was some of the best advice, because that's when I learned that I didn't want to be a lawyer, because I'd never taken the time to think about why was I going to law school. I was going to law school because I thought I should be a lawyer, not because that's who I was. It wasn't that work filled me up. So I had to learn how to do that, and that required, because that's who I went to law school, because learned that I didn't want to be a lawyer, because I'd never taken the time to think about why was I going to law school. I was going to law school because I thought I should be a lawyer, not because that's who I was. It wasn't that work filled me up. So I had to learn how to do that, and that required networking and exposing myself to more people and more jobs and more careers and more opportunities. As a result of that, I became an assistant to the mayor in the city of Chicago. And then I went on to run a nonprofit organization, and I went on to be an associate dean at a university, and I went on to be the vice president at an academic medical center. And my life just started opening up in ways that I never predicted, because I started asking myself that one simple question, not what did I want to be, but who did I want to be, and how did I want to show up in the world? And if you all can get the jump on starting to ask yourself that question as you go after your careers, if you're starting to think about what kind of work will bring you joy, because if you find that, you're going to do well at it, and everything else is going to fall into place. And it did for me. I think young people, when they think about change, you get hung up on thinking that the only change that matters is something big and huge and powerful and mighty, starting your own organization or moving the needle on an initiative. But when you're young, the best thing you can do is, number one, take care of you, because you are the best asset you can invest in at this time. So that means taking care of your space, your health, your education, protecting your heart is an important investment for the bigger picture. And then think about who's around you. Who can you really influence? And everyone can influence someone. Maybe it's a younger sibling, maybe it's a neighbor, maybe it's another girl in a class below you. Because when you think about it, younger kids, they don't necessarily look up to the teacher. They look up to the girl right just above them. So I would urge you to think about who do you have access to right now, today, that is looking to you for guidance. They see you as a role model. Because I guarantee you there's someone in your life right now who thinks that the sun rises and sets on every word you say. And I would start talking to them. And I would do small things like bring them with me when I did something unique, taking them to a museum. It's those small gestures that matter. It's not the grand sweeping actions that make change. Change happens every single day with the little interactions that you have with the people in your life. Well, I mentor because I was mentored. Yeah, I think Marian Wright Edelman, one of my heroines, said, service is the rent we pay for living.
Yes, ma'am.
And I feel the same thing. I feel like when someone invests in me, as many people have, I didn't get here on my own. I didn't get here because I was some miracle kid that had dust sprinkled on me and things just happened. There were people in my life who saw potential in me, people who didn't have to make the investment, who held a hand out and showed me the way. And some of them were much older than me. Some of them were people who were my peers or people just ahead of me. So I am a product of the generosity of other people's mentorship. So the expectation of myself is that I give that back. And it's also selfish of me that I mentor because I get a lot out of it too. I mean, one of the best things I do is spend time with younger people because they keep me focused. They, as I said at the top of this conversation, you all keep me clear and focused. I feel fulfilled in helping you achieve your goals. It's the most fulfilling thing that I do is to watch another person benefit from something that I help them do. I'm not here to compete with people. I'm here to continue to lift people up. My hope is that the support that I've shown you and others have shown you, you will find it in you to show that to someone else. One of the reasons I started the mentorship program in the White House was because I wanted people to know that everyone has the time and the capability, even the First Lady and the President of the United States, because the President had a separate mentorship program too. And we connected our mentees with senior people throughout the White House, from the Chief of Staff to the head of the household to Secret Service agents. They were connected with people on a regular basis. So if we can do it, if we could find the time in our busy lives to take a moment out, because it doesn't even take that long, you can have an impact on another person with one good conversation. You know, I never underestimate the value of showing children my regard, which is why I take time out when I see kids, because I think even if I'm with you in a photo line or on a rope line, that maybe there's one thing I can say to you, that you're beautiful, that you're smart, that I see you, you know, that I believe in you. Yeah, I don't know you, but sometimes a kid just needs to hear that. And that doesn't have to come from the First Lady. It's powerful when it does come from the First Lady, but coming from you, coming from all of you to someone who looks up to you, it means the same thing. So my expectation for all of you is that you find a way to mentor. And maybe now is not the time, but at some point in your life, when you get to a place where you have the space, my hope is that you make that time. And that you continue to look for the mentors in your life, because I still look for mentors, even today. Anybody who knows more than me, I'm going to sit them down and they're going to become my friend. And I'm going to ask for help. I did it when I came into the White House. One of the first people I sat down with were other living first ladies. I made it a point to meet with every single one of them. Number one, to just thank them for their service. Number two, I wanted to make sure they felt the lines of communication were open with me. Third, I wanted to know what it was like for them. What were their challenges? So you never stop learning, and I never stop learning. So if I'm still looking for mentorship, you all should be doing that at every phase of your life. Whether it's another mother, when you become a parent, you're going to need other parents to help you mentor. If you're in a relationship, you're going to want mentorship to help you get through your relationship. It never stops.
Crazy. I just told two of my grandkids that same thing about have a conversation with a random person. Hold on. Sorry about that.
Wow, I just built the most amazing workflow on Monday.com.
You build your own workflow? Why? There are a bunch of amazing pre-made templates you can just choose from.
Nah, I'm a custom-made kind of gal. Right. I work with a lot of vendors, so I made my own form. It has everything that I need to know, and when they click submit, it automatically turns into an item exactly.
I enjoyed that one. All right, let me get us something else. Hey, my man's Kobe. Let's see what Kobe talking about. And like I said, all of these.
You really want me on the team. What's your approach to recruitment? You want first place, come play with me. You want second place, go somewhere else. Like I would watch Magic play. I'd watch Michael play. And I would see them do these unbelievable things, and I'd say, you know, can I get to that level? I don't know, but.
No, we heard this.
Let's find out. That's why the program that I'm doing, I gotta tailor it for an 82-game season so that when the playoffs come around, my legs are stronger and that ball gets there. So I look at it with rationale and say, okay, well, the reason why I shot air balls is because my legs aren't there. I go, well, next year they'll be there. That was it. You really want me on the team. What's your approach to recruitment?
We got
you want first place, come
left.
play with me. You want second place, go somewhere else. Like I would watch Magic play. I'd watch Michael play. And I would see them do these unbelievable things, and I said, no.
All right, here we go.
If I want something, I go into the future in my brain, which is powerful, and I visualize exactly what I want. And then I think about every single thing I need to do to make that happen, and every single thing that could stop that from happening or what I need to avoid. Then I go right back. Like I was just in the future, thinking about watching myself on my television network. Because I do that, that means I have to think what would be the worst case scenario, and then I have to think what would be the best case scenario. And then I eliminate every single thing that I think could happen, which I call art detecting, and then I put everything and every single attitude and person around me in my vision that's gonna make me get to what I want. And also, I try to get the people around me to think about the same exact vision. So you can inspire people and all that energy is focused on one thing that they can visualize in their head, then it becomes a tangible reality. And I know that to be a fact because it's happened. It's a fact for me. So I continue to do that. I am really careful about how small my thoughts are because I don't feel like wasting time in a 24-hour day making this much. And I could spend the same amount of time with the same amount of energy if I art detected right at this much. And with this much, I can help so many more people that I love.
Need motivation?
What's your top 10 with Believe Nation?
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more. And you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Dame Dash, and my take on his top 50 rules for success. Enjoy.
We believe in a future where every person has the opportunity not just to get by, but to get ahead. Building up the middle class will be a defining goal of my presidency.
people were just slaves to pattern. You know what I'm saying? Like, if everyone does one thing, then everybody else wants to do it. And I'm a guy that never wants to, I never ever wanted to look like everybody else.
Right.
So my thing is, I gotta stand out. I gotta be different. Or
That's some Harlem shit. Is that it?
I think it's just, it is, because again, like when you make money really young,
right,
it makes you really confident. And
Right.
sometimes people mistake it as arrogance, but like when you're in a circumstance where you have no choice but to grow up and it's very competitive, it wasn't like I was the only young dude getting money.
Right.
Everybody that was in my age in a certain circle was getting money, so it was normal
Right.
to conduct yourself like an adult, and then you were kind of guided by adults.
Right.
So I just got used to a different pattern really young, and it was more of a freedom pattern that came with the survival and wanting to be the best at it.
How is it being so-called so unpopular to make sure that others around you were popular?
The funny thing is, one, I don't care.
Right.
But number two, I feel very popular at all times.
Right.
If I'm the thing that people don't understand, I'm not a rapper, I'm not a singer, I'm not an actor.
He's just
I'm a businessman. So the fact that anyone even cares to me, whether they don't like it or do like it, I mean, on a business level or for a big picture guy, that's really all that counts. Like on a personal level, there's social classes, right? So there's one class that's meant to work for those that don't work.
Yeah.
And those that don't work are usually second and third generation. They're born into it. The reason why is those people own things and they pass it.
Yeah.
So what they do is they give another class, the working class, distractions, make them hate each other, make them want to do sports and only know how to do like what's lotto. Like we're only programmed to say the only way we could get out of a social class to be workers is to be athletes or to be entertainers. And that slot is like lotto. But even in school, they distract you and say, here's every team that can go professional. But there's no like political team. They never show you how to be a politician or how to change a law, or they have singing class and all this other, everything to distract you.
Yeah.
So, and that's lotto to win at that level.
Right.
So that means everyone that's trained their whole life to get there, which is 90% of the world, which is the working class, only 1% gets there. And that person that was an entertainer or is they get into the 1%. But only if they sell out and distract everyone else that they were a part of that helped them get where they got to go. And I'm just not down for that pattern. And it's strategic. It's not like, like the way nerds, people that aren't strong, control, people that are strong, like, be like, whatever, you jump in front of me, I fight. But people that are weak, they have to be strategic about how they control. So brain controls muscle. And that's what's been happening. We've been controlled. We've been programmed to hate each other, kill each other, be happy to have a job, happy to work for someone else, and only happy to be able to take care of yourself. So everybody comes from a place of self-preservation. Everyone's always worried about themselves. And the purpose of love is to love people before you love yourself. But now, look at the way the system is set up. In school, they take your kids from you, and then they tell you, unless you go to college, and this is, the majority of the world, and the majority of the world is the working class. Unless you go to college, which you can't afford, unless you get a loan to go to college, you've done something wrong. So you go to college, you get that loan, and in order to pay off the loan, you got to get a job you don't want. And you still desperate. And in order to buy that house, because you paid that loan, you ain't got no cash. Now you got to get another loan to get the house.
Yep.
And so you always have to be working from backwards. You always have to be worried about yourself. And what I find when I'm around desperate people is they're all right with I got to do what I got to do to eat. Wow. They sometimes justify doing things that are not honorable to survive. So, everyone's always in a place of fear, a place of backpedaling and self-preservation, and that's the problem. The test is to love others before you love yourself, and that's what a real boss does. The test is to think about the future, not the present. Your present is only dictated by what you did in your past. So you got to start planning. It's chess, not checkers.
What is your definition of culture vulture?
A person that makes money from the culture but doesn't live the culture. A person that doesn't help the culture that they're making money from. A person that intentionally hurts the culture so that they can monetize it. A person that takes care of their children based on somebody else's work and their labor and makes them think they have more than they do so that they can continue to work for them. A person that makes you believe you're dependent on them, that you need them to get from point A to point B just so you can monetize it. That's a culture vulture. And that could be black, white, whatever. There's black culture vulture, there's white culture vultures, there's every kind of nationality. And the worst culture vulture is the one that does it within his own supposed culture. That's the one that's the devil, because he's pretending to be something he's not, and that's cheating.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
Let me get some more.
Are you always stressed, procrastinating, or falling behind on work because your to-do lists look like this? What if I told you that tackling your hardest, most important task...
Failing is never failing, it's always a learning experience.
I stopped living according to what people wanted me to do. I started living according to what actually made me happy.
Independence is priceless. It's just people that have never had it don't even understand.
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
What's up, Believe Nation? It's Evan. I believe in you, and this channel is designed to be a part of your daily success routine.
Being quick is a test. How to pay something that's paying your bills, so that whatever you're creating can breathe. So you don't have to rush it. You don't have to make it, push it to make money when it's not ready. You know what I mean? Like, you kind of always have to have something solid, and then that's paying your bills. You know, because even as an artist,
I hustle for my last name. I don't hustle for my first.
Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Get out of the 9 to 5.
9 to 5s aren't good because you hustling for a weekend. But when you do something that's for yourself and your family, it never feels like work. I hustle for my last name. I don't hustle for my first.
Rule number 2, be patient.
I've learned over the years that, you know.
So, what he said, if everyone owned a business, how would it run without workers? So, let's think of, I don't want to answer the question before I say, what he said is that, okay, the 1% that do make it out of being a worker, of working for those who don't work, they trick everybody else into working. That's their obligation. That's how they get all of their leisure or valuables, or all the stuff that we say would be their riches, by making us work. So think about what you're doing at any job anyway. I don't care if you're a fast food worker or the trash man. What you're doing at these jobs is you're completing a service for mankind. That's how I look at it. And, excuse me, and with me looking at it like that, oh, wow, I didn't know you could do this. Okay. Am I supposed to push start? Oh, there we go. All right. Anyway, I look at it like that. And the reason I look at it like that is because it makes me going to doing any job, anything, a lot easier. If I got to go and do a job and I'm like, I really don't want to be there, it's probably because I don't see any value in the service that I'm doing. Oh, word. They got WNBA in the PS5. I'm definitely going to do that. So, finding the workers to run the jobs, if everyone owns the business, the working pool would come from those who need that service. So if you need that service, you're doing the work for that service. Like, we need food. So the farmer is growing the food. He eats the food. So if you're the business, you need workers. You are the worker. It's not a let's go look for other workers. We're looking for people who need this service. So the people who need this service are going to complete this work. That's the way I see it.
Patient or 5 months patient. You could be 10 years patient if you want to. Empires aren't built overnight. You know what I mean? Like I always tell everybody, the Great Wall was a 2,000-year-old plan. 2,000. You know how many lifetimes that is of one plan? And getting people to kind of do the same, have the same exact agenda for lifetimes, for generations. That's crazy. So significant no matter what. And a lot of time that means, not reaping the benefits of something immediately, and that's the test.
Rule number 3, put your own money up.
I don't think my approach on business is what the average person would advise. I hear people say, never put up your own money. And I'm saying, put your own money up. Work harder than everyone. Be patient. And just know that if you're going to do something on your own, you're going to have to feel some pain.
Rule number 4, pay your bills.
You always have to have something that's paying your bills. To rush it. You don't have to push it to make money when it's not ready. You know what I mean? You kind of always have to have something solid, and then that's paying your bills, because even as an artist, to me as a man, you still have the responsibility to take care of your woman, to take care of your children, and to take care of yourself. And, almost in that order. It's like children, your woman, and then yourself. You know what I'm saying? But all of that should be able to be taken care of. That's a real man, And as an artist, you can't say, all right, well, I'm not going to take care of my children or take care of my woman or even take care of myself well to protect my artistry. Then that's not artistry to me. That's just being lazy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That artistry. You know what I'm saying? You have to figure out how to pay your bills so that the artistry can breathe. You know what I mean? And
so the worker at some point can realize that this is what is happening, and then it's up to them to make a choice. Suppose the service I do is what I love, then it is well with me to do what I'm doing. Exactly. Okay, think about the coal miner, right? The coal miner is breathing in toxic chemicals into his lungs, or toxicity into his lungs. And I'm not talking about nowadays, I'm talking about back in the day, right? So how does he tell his son, how does he get his son to do the same thing? Does he want his son to do the same thing? Because we're not talking about a boardroom with velvet carpeting and all of this stuff. You see what I'm saying? We talking about coal mining. All right? So, but we need the coal. You get what I'm saying? How do we get the coal miner to keep being a coal miner if we know it's poison in him? Well, I got an answer for you, but let's just keep listening to Dame until I get some responses. Maybe somebody will respond.
That's how you feel like I'm a real man. Have you ever watched a James Bond movie where it doesn't look like he's losing at some point and then he wins? Or Batman or Iron Man or any superhero? There has to be some diversity for you to, overcome to win. You can't be a champ unless you, are in a place where you look like you're going to lose and then you win. The pain that's going to come with being independent, you have to embrace it because it's going to happen. And also know that the more successful you get, the more problems you're going to have, the more knots you're going to have to untie. Being a boss does not mean smooth sailing. It means having the ability to care about other people before yourself and to untie problems, untie knots. That's all it is. It's not business if there's not problems. It doesn't happen. In all my experiences, there hasn't been one thing that's been successful without me feeling some pain before it was successful. So now when there is pain, I embrace it. I've been embracing it. I'm a G about it because I know that must mean that if I'm cool, that, what awaits me is like the darkest before the dawn. I don't want to sound corny, but that's really that's what has to happen.
Rule number 6, play fair.
I'm always going to play fair. You know what I mean? I don't believe in doing anything unless it's fair because I believe there's always karmic repercussions. What could appear to be a win or something that appears to be a fast money, and I know in the long run I'm going to suffer. But, it's always a test. Anything quick is a test. I can get it quick if I don't have to cheat, but if I got to cheat to get it fast, I don't want it.
Rule number 7, be independent.
My parents haven't bought me clothes since I was about 14. I haven't had nobody buy me nothing. Let's say that. No one's taken care of me since I was 14 years old, and I didn't want nobody taking care of me because they couldn't.
Rule number 8, hire intentionally.
Taste, talent, and work ethic. You know what I mean? And all of that, I need all of it. Taste, talent, work ethic, perspective. So when I interview, or even when the people I work with find more talent, they have to bring me, I have to get a mixtape from them, because I need to know what music they're listening to. Because taste in music tells a lot about a person. It really does. What's the last book they read? Favorite artist? And it's funny, because sometimes, you get those, the answers are hilarious, but people be trying. They don't have, but, you honestly have to have I look for all your senses to be activated. You know what I mean? I need you to have good taste in music. I need you to have work ethic. I need you to be a good person. I need you to have good taste in clothes. You need to be able to be savvy and more than there's not one job that anyone does in my staff.
Rule number 9, stop caring what others think.
What's the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning? If you're checking your phone, stop that. Instead, try this technique from the Mind Science pioneer.
I make a regular business that doesn't touch pop culture, doesn't make history, then to some people that would be considered going backwards. That's not a pressure for me, because I could care less what people think, and I don't think there's anything about my career someone else. I'm just constantly trying to impress myself. I've accomplished, relatively speaking, a lot of things. And because of that, I've been able to do exactly what inspires me.
Rule number 10, don't be lazy.
Everyone has the ability to take care of themselves. You can always be a hunter. You can always eat the food you kill. It's just about how lazy you are. You know what I'm saying? Period. It's all about your effort.
Rule number 11, do what you love.
How do you stay motivated?
Love. You got to do what you love. You can't get burnt out, and I do get burnt out. Once I'm in the business and I don't enjoy it no more, that's the thing. It's hard for me to stay in the business for a long period of time because the people tend to make me sick. So as soon as I start to get aggravated, it's like I'll be on the block. If the block starts to make me mad, I go to another block. Even if I got the block clicking, it's just like I won't compromise my quality of living. You know what I'm saying? But right now, what I'm doing is, I'm building things that I could pass to my kids, but only things that I love and my
That's right.
movies.
Well, if we go by what Dame said, love people, we don't. We find another way to extract the coal. Hold on, wait. What if we go by what Dame said, love people? We don't. We find another way to extract the coal. Yeah, so instead of sending your son down there to extract the coal, so you find it, like you said, you find another way. And that's kind of imagine everything that we've built here as a society, as a culture, as a people, as whatever, Americans, people living in this country, however you describe us. Imagine everything we've built here is built on top of a graveyard. And who wants to live on top of dead people? Literally. To the point where it's like, hey, I gotta kill you to survive. And I think a lot of it, since we don't know, we're not necessarily educated up front on how many people did what in the past, but we know for a fact nowadays it's like, hey man, I gotta get that check, I gotta get that money, I have to get that whatever it is. And it's not, this is from the 80s up to the 2020s, where it's like for the love of money. And I think we're finally coming out of that delusion. And I call it a delusion because delusion because it's like you have all the money in the world And how is it that you don't have what you really want and you can't buy it? Or you have what you really want and you don't recognize it. So you're trying to make money to buy what it is you think you really want. We wouldn't have these two examples out here in the world if it wasn't for the delusion. And guess what? This is why I feel in my heart you have some of the greatest civilizations, structures still walking across this planet today, because we weren't living, I don't want to say species, I just want to say as whatever it is that we are here on this planet, we wasn't living in the delusion at that point. And so some great things that we still look at as great got done at that time.
I don't think I'm gonna be burnt out with that anytime soon, you know. And then also, when you're in the business of making money off other people, that person could make. You know, I try to only make money off myself these days, and also do things that, you know, my girl or my wife, Rocky, if she's inspired, then we'll do that business. And like something revolving my children, I'll do that business. But I worked hard to put myself in that position.
Rule number 12, make things happen.
Was there some pivotal moment for you in your life where you just really got it and something happened, a fire ignited inside you that made it so that you had all the moving parts to make this amazing career unfold?
I think got me really focused, and I understood that there wasn't going to be anyone there to take care of me. I had to take care of myself. And just out of respect for her life and all the things she did to make me a better person, I had to apply all those things. So, you know, at like 17, my mother died when I was 16. At 17, you know, I was running the streets so heavy and it was getting so critical that I put myself in boarding school. You know, I figured out how to get a scholarship, and because of the what's on my mind, to read, to write, you know, to not be afraid. And also I was, you know, boxing. So I went to the boys club, and they were giving out scholarships for, you know, you took a test, I passed the test, and, you know, I made it. And I would just always able to put myself in a better place. I never let anybody else control my destiny. My mom's taught me to make things happen on my own, not to depend on anybody, and if I have an opinion, to speak on it.
Rule number 13, be consistent.
The only way to be a professional, like a professional baseball player, a boxer, is someone that's better than everyone else. That's why he gets paid so much to do it. That means work. It ain't nothing professional going to get given to you. There's some sacrifice. There's always pain. And, you know, there's always going to be dark times, because that's part of business. Every time you create a new business, you got to struggle a little bit. And it takes a while to build a brand. It takes about 5 years to be consistent. Like my first 5 years, you know, I'm not saying nothing different. I've been saying the same exact stuff. If you go look at backstage and any kind of argument I had, they didn't trust it. But after I've been saying it for 10 years, or 5 to 10, now it's a brand. I have a brand for it. I'm consistent. I back it up. I'm still here. I'm still up. Even when, you know, being an independent meant looking like you was down.
Rule number 14, finish the fight.
If you're not making $158,000 per year, but you'd like to, I strongly encourage you to start a bookkeeping business. That's right.
Failing is never failing. It's always a learning experience. So the thing about business is how deep your pocket is. I always say that. Like, if you got a lot of money, you can sustain these losses until they turn into gains. But if you have a short paper, if your money's not long, or if you don't have enough, you have to make sure that those losses don't kill and compromise your pocket.
And
you know
at that point, you got to get creative.
But when you do anything, you get better at it the more you do it. And the first time you do anything, you usually don't do it correct. Get up, and it's like in a fight. The first round you might get knocked out, but by the last round you get up and knock that person out. Who won? You lost the round, but you win the whole fight.
All right, so just because if you get bored on the block, how about you not go to another block, go do something totally different. Yeah. So just because you think you have everything, it doesn't mean that you know which way is up. Up is different for so many people. The road is not a one-way street. Yep, exactly. I'm gonna get us, oh man, dang, it's 11 o'clock already. So, what I'm gonna do is, I am going to save and quit my career for now. And I'm going to round this message out for y'all by saying this. 1 second. All right. So you got to decide if you even want to go up. You may want to go down. You may want to go left. You may want to go right. But what is in those directions is what you're really trying to get to. Like one of the speakers said, Matthew McConaughey, it may not be about finding out who you are. It may be about finding out what you're not. It may be a lot easier to start there, to find out what it is you're not, what it is you don't accept, what it is that you don't like. And then once you start to add up on that list, those things, you can see what you are and what it is you do like. And you got a nice, full, hefty understanding of yourself. So finding out which way is up may just be a matter of looking and seeing which direction you're already going, and then deciding if you want to go up. I'm a big, firm believer in finding out what it is inside of you that you like and enjoy and want to do and want to keep doing, regardless of what it is you're doing right now. But ease into that thing, y'all. Ease into that thing. You don't want to, you definitely don't want to quit your day job. Okay? Now, this has been another episode of Expansion Pack. I'm your host, Dan F. Man. Thank you for tuning in, all of y'all who tune in. We about to put it down on this 2K. 2K just dropped today, so I got a lot of grinding I got to do. Y'all go ahead and chill out and enjoy Expansion Pack tomorrow. Today is Wednesday, so we got tomorrow and Friday. And tomorrow is another mental health Thursday, and then Friday will be another financial Friday. I'm gonna drop those topics on y'all. And after this week, we will be over at the DGTA TV page on Twitch and all of the other accounts. But y'all just keep on rocking with me here at Dan F Man 007. Once again, this has been another episode of Expansion Pack, and we gonna holla at y'all tomorrow. Peace. Oh, and by the way, I sit and play the game all day, and I really, really, as a kid, wished I could do this. So to be back here, at 9 years old, I really wished I could do this. So to be back here, man, I'm driving down this road. I'm sprinting down this road. If the car run out of gas on this road, I'm going down this road. So I encourage you all to do the same thing with your life, and wherever it may lead you, I hope it's where you wanted to go. Peace.
Got to lose some rounds in business, but at the end of the day, you want that unanimous decision. You got to keep going. You got to finish the fight. The question is, do you have the stamina to finish?
Rule number 15, be fearless.
But you get on the web and you check out who's Dame Dash, and there's so much crap. How do you deal with that, and how do you suggest other people deal with it when they reach a certain level of celebrity?
I mean, when you sign on to being a certain level of celebrity, you got to know they're going to say things, and, things are going to get eyeballs and get people to buy, you know what I'm saying? And, I really don't care. And one of the reasons why I think cared, I probably would be too scared to promote people that people don't want to promote. It takes fearlessness to be first, to not move with a crowd, to move alone.
Appreciate you for tapping in.
And you get scrutinized by people that do move with a crowd because they got to make you look bad to make themselves look good. It's all part of the game. It's like a guy that's in high school that gets all the girls. the rest of the dudes hate him in high school. So my whole life has been being that guy in high school that everyone hates because I keep taking their girls.
You can understand that.
It's not a bad life. So that's how I look at it. The price of success is unsuccessful people don't like you. Who cares? Like, successful people don't care about what another person's doing.
Successful people want everybody else to be. Don't understand.
Right. So it's usually a bunch of unsuccessful, bitter people. And I was a guy in school that, got kicked out of every school. I was the class clown. I wasn't the guy that you would traditionally think would go this far. So me making it made all my teachers look stupid. Every principal that kicked me out of school looked stupid. I went to South Kent in Connecticut on scholarship. I didn't come back the next year. The next time I came back was on a helicopter and I landed it on the soccer field. When I got kicked out of Dwight in the 7th grade, my son came back and they were asking me, I put my son through there. I paid full tuition plus extras for tutoring, and they asked me to build a library. Was asking me to build a library.